Hi, I'm Suzanne Reymer, a statewide consulting librarian for Montana State Library. And today we're going to talk about mill levies and your library. We hope you'll learn about your role as a board member and that there is a possibility of obtaining additional mills through a vote of the community. And so you can see that this is an option for you. And we'll look at a little bit of the process for obtaining additional mills. And this should be able to strengthen you as an advocate for the library. Now, these are some of the resources that will be handy to you in looking at mill levies. One is a trustee handbook. Montana Code annotated, particularly these sections. Your city county clerk, your city county budget officer, sometimes also known as a finance officer, and some information on advocacy, and there are links on this from the MSL consulting page. Now, why is it important for board members to understand the library's finances and learn about mill levies? Managing public funds wisely is one of your most important duties. Helping the library obtain the funding it needs to be successful is one of the most powerful things you can do to make sure your community is receiving the best library service possible. There are limitations on what directors and staff can do when it comes to mill levy votes. Advocacy becomes very important for trustees because you must be prepared to tell the library's story and how this mill levy will improve library services that will benefit the community. Your voice is even more important than the library staff, as you are a volunteer donating your time to the library and its goals. Before we can really look at whether or not a voted mill levy is right for your library, you need to have an understanding of how your library is currently funded. Pause for a moment and consider the funding sources for your library. How are library services paid for in your community? Does the library seem to have enough funding to provide quality services to the community? Or does it seem to need more funding? Write down your reasons for answering the questions the way you did. And we'll take a moment so you can do that. Reflecting on the needs of your library will help you focus your energies on the most relevant portions of this video. For background on that, we're going to look at the trustee handbook, and this is a section from there. Please consider following along if that helps you retain what you are hearing. Most of your funding will no doubt be coming from your local sources. That's most often property taxes. In some cases, the library may also receive funds from resort taxes or gas production taxes or some other source. Many libraries get their funding from their city or county's general fund. This means you're competing for dollars with other local services such as police and fire. Even if local government has historically granted a given number of mills to the library from the general fund, this can be changed when budgets are tight. You may also run into problems if the value of a mill decreases. If your library needs additional funding, you may want to consider asking the community to provide dedicated mills, that is through property tax support, for the library. This is an option for public libraries, and it does not apply for every entity. The board has the option of bringing a mill levy to the voters to increase support for the library. Information on the process is provided in Montana Code Annotated. and we gave you the citation previously. We provided links to the pertinent laws from the Library Director's Handbook, as well as on the webpage on library laws and rules. It's under property tax levies. In addition, we've offered a suggested timeline, and this is the first part of it. You can see we have lined out 18 months. You'll need to work with your city or county clerk and budget officer. You'll also need to work with your city or county commission. They can either pass a resolution allowing you to go out for a mill levy election or require you to submit a petition before you can get on the ballot. As you can see from the 18-month timeline, this is not a quick process. So it's one that will take some time and a lot of work, but there are payoffs. There are several decisions that need to be made if the board decides to ask for additional dedicated library mills. You must determine how many mills you need, the duration of the mill levy, and whether you want to ask for a specific dollar amount or a specific number of mills. We'll start with the question of the duration of the mill levy. Is it permanent or for a set number of years? If you choose to make it permanent, you'll want to make sure it's adequate, so you don't need to go back in a couple of years asking for an increase. It's probably safer to ask for more than you need at the moment, but only plan to levy the amount you actually need at that time. That gives you a cushion for the future. So if you're only levying what you actually need, but then in a couple of years you decide you need a little bit more, you can levy a little bit more and you still have that area in there. Consider how much to request and whether you want to ask for a specific dollar amount or a specific number of mills. We referenced this earlier when we talked about making sure the mill levy is adequate. There have been cases where libraries have gone out for mill levies, considering them to be supplemental to previously allocated mills from their local government. When money got tight or other mill levies failed, the government sought to reallocate the non-dedicated mills to other local agencies. So the library was faced with just its supplemental mills. In most cases, a library is better off asking for a specific number of mills. If the community's property value is increasing, the library will see small increases in funding each year if you ask for a specific number of mills. If you happen to live in an area where property values are stagnant, you may wish to ask for a specific dollar amount. This will ensure that you receive a specific amount of funding. In this video, we discussed common funding situations, the option of asking for dedicated voted mills for the library, the process for voted mill levies, and the role of the board. Consider discussing this topic with your library director and fellow board members. Here are some questions to consider. What funding sources are currently paying for library services? Are they sufficient? Why or why not? What could the library do with additional funding? Would community members support additional mills for the library? How could the board find out? And what next steps would the board like to explore? Thank you for serving libraries and the work you do. If you have further questions, please contact your MSL consultant.